Hello everyone, we're here for a late-breaking clinical trial discussion with Dr. Paul Gould. So he'll be discussing his late-breaker first-in-human experience from the RESET AF trial. So to start us off, why don't you give us a brief overview of what this trial was looking at?
Thanks so much for the introduction and the opportunity to speak. So this trial was investigating a first-in-human novel investigational device for treatment of atrial fibrillation with pulse field ablation. And this is a really expanding field, and we have an exciting new treatment with this catheter. And it's an individual treatment. It's admitted to the atrium with an 8.5 French agilis sheath. It has contact parameters, and we believe it's got a lot to offer for the treatment of atrial fibrillation.
That sounds so interesting, Paul. As you would know, with the existing PFA choices, we've got very large bore sheaths, and people worry about air embolism and stroke risk. So tell us, how did it come to be, the design of this catheter? What were the considerations? Have you had much involvement with that?
Yeah, I didn't design the catheter. I came in for the clinical investigations, but it's a very important point you make. The 8.4 French catheter is admitted with the agilis, which we use usually, so it's not much change to what you normally do. And it has the ability to use it with mapping systems. We use the EnSite mapping system during the actual cases, and you establish catheter position and contact. We could measure contact and lesion integrity during the actual ablation. There's minimal movement. Once you get your position and your contact, that's it for that vein. You do one or two treatments, and then you move to the other vein and do one or two treatments. So the flow's quite good. And we've had very good results. We've followed now most patients to 12 months. There's 9 still pending. We have very good results at 6 months with about 94% freedom from atrial fibrillation. So 34 of the 36 patients. And then at the end, it's 27 have reached the 12-month mark, and 25 of them are free of atrial fibrillation, so similarly 93%. We also in this study did a remap at 3 months, which I think is very important for these studies. And we looked at the durability, and this is how we gauged our dosing depending on the durability. So initially we started with a higher dose. We had one serious adverse event there with acute renal impairment. The patient had moderate renal impairment before we did the procedure. They had 2 CT scans on the day before the procedure, which was not ideal, and they did not require dialysis or hemofiltration. They recovered to their baseline, but because of that we altered the dosing, and in the end we've found a good dosing, and we had 100% durability at 3 months in the final patients that we studied for this. And I think that that's good. I think that going forward this is a good benchmark for us. So the human study that we've done, the first-in-human study, has established what we should do with the dosing, positioning, and how we establish contact with this catheter. So it's very pleasing.
Wow. Can you tell us a bit about thinking about PFA, reduced procedure time, possibly safer, a better safety profile? Tell us about what was the dwell time like and the procedure duration.
So the dwell time was approximately between 50 to 60, I'm just trying to remember, 50 to 60 minutes dwell time, but we had we were running a protocol where we had a 20-minute waiting period, and we were also trying to establish the catheter position and contact, and we were establishing these parameters, so we took a lot more time with focusing on where the position was and establishing the contact parameters, which we've finalised. So it's artificially longer, I think, and it's in a first-in-human state, but there was no complications other than the one I spoke about, so we were very happy.
And I'm not sure if prior to this, were predominantly an RF or a cryo operator, but what do you think the learning curve is with using this new technology?
That's a very good question. I was predominantly an RF user, so I don't think by the end of the study, we were quite adept at positioning this catheter very quickly, and so the times did absolutely come down. It was more protocol driven, so I think the learning curve really would be between 2 to 5 cases. It's not a long learning curve, so I was very happy with that aspect of it. And it's with things that we're familiar with using, such as the agilis sheath and the access. So it's not sort of learning new sheaths, multiple different positions with catheters. And it's if you've looked at the catheter, it's a 3-dimensional helix shape, similar to a lasso catheter, but like a corkscrew. And we learnt with the positioning of it, we learnt that if you did corkscrew it out, sort of out the vein region, that was an ideal place. There's 2 sizes, and it fits well for patients.
Okay, great. And so obviously this is the first in human experience. Are there plans to, compare it to current technologies or any RCTs in the works?
Yeah, there's a next study which is going to be performed at this stage. We're still planning, but we're hoping to perform that. And next for the regulatory bodies, there's no head-to-head studies planned yet, but I see in the future that would be a good idea.
Yeah. All right. Did you have any other questions, Louise?
I just had the one question, just because you mentioned remapping. I think this is so important, and it's a big limitation of some of our other studies where we don't have this opportunity for ethical reasons to perform multiple procedures unless there's a clinical indication. So with PFA, sometimes we do see acute success or isolation, but then they come back and we can see this reversible lesion formation. And I just wondered, did you see much of that in your remapping studies?
We had overall the durability was in the 80%, but that was us getting the dose right, the position right. Once we achieve that, we got 100% durability. I agree with you wholeheartedly. I think if you're able to remap, it's a very good indicator of the success of the procedure. None of the patients that had 100% isolation at 3 months had atrial fibrillation. I think this is a marker of irreversible electroporation versus reversible electroporation where there is poor durability. So it is an excellent marker in these studies going forward. And I agree it is difficult because it's not necessarily clinically indicated, but if you're able to do that in the study, it's a wonderful marker of the success and irreversible electroporation, which I believe will have a good clinical outcome in the future.
Fantastic. 2 more very quick questions. One is, were these results on or off antiarrhythmic therapy? And the second question is, down the track, is this technology going to become more widely available, or is this still in sort of research experimental phase?
The first answer to the first question, at the 3-month mark, if the patient had atrial fibrillation, so 2 patients continued their antiarrhythmics because they had atrial fibrillation at the 3-month mark, but otherwise they were discontinued at 3 months.
Fantastic, that's great. Well, we really look forward to hearing the late breaker tomorrow, but otherwise we'll put back to the studio and look forward to hearing the results.
Thank you so much. Thank you.